Chairman, on behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby wish to give notice that at the next sitting of the Council it notes that, firstly, only 28,000 children, or less than half of the 63,000 learners who enrolled for grade 1 in 2002 in the Free State managed to reach grade 12 and begin writing their matric examinations. Secondly, the other learners, some 35,042 children, dropped out of school due to a variety of reasons, including schoolgirl pregnancies, death, migration, poverty, or delinquency. Thirdly, last year, 24,265 learners in the Free State sat for their matric from 59,488 who started grade 1 in 2001. This means 59.2% left school before reaching grade 12, an indictment against a poor educational system. Largely, this disturbing trend of school dropouts continues at national level, where 50.7% of the 1,168,581 learners left school before writing their final examinations. According to the South African education system, only the grades 1 to 9 are compulsory for every child to attend. I so move.
Honorable Charles de Beer.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I hereby give notice that in the next sitting of the Council, I shall move that the Council, 1, notes the egg dance and the split tongue of the Democratic Alliance and the conflicting and unconvincing reasons why it had supported the Employment Equity Amendment Bill in the National Assembly, but now all of a sudden intends to oppose the bill in this House, and notes that the DA caucus is clearly split on the issue while there were claims for heads to roll and motions of no confidence in respect of certain of its members. Notes that the Democratic Alliance illustrates incompetency and a party with no principles and no understanding of the challenges facing the country and historically excluded majority of its people, with no understanding of the legitimate expectations and interests of such people, and also of a party with no conscience, and with a clear mission to mislead black voters in South Africa in a cheap attempt to gain their support. Also notes that the flip-flop of the DA and its leaders now clearly exploded in their faces. On the other hand, their about turn now on the bill gave voters, and specifically the black voters, a glimpse of the deep dark side of the real Democratic Alliance.
Can you move your motion, Honourable Member?
Condemns the cheap political opportunity and unprincipled flip-flopping of the DA in the strongest possible terms, and calls on South Africans to open their eyes and not to be fooled by parties like the DA to pacify and mislead them, only to be used as cheap electoral mob. I shall move, Chairperson.
Honourable members, please time your motions. There's time for motions before you are stopped by the Chair. Honourable Joseph.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I hereby give notice that I will move a motion in the next sitting of the House, that the House discuss the slow economic growth in South Africa, as well as the factors like labour instability and constrained power supply, which is slowing down industrial development. The decision by the German car giant not to produce their new BMW model in South Africa is a lesson for us. According to The Economist, the lack of power supply, high production costs, and labour instability has a negative impact towards investors who want to choose South Africa. Honourable Chair, for the economy to grow 3% in 2015, for the National Development Plan to succeed, and infrastructure development to be enhanced, we need strong leadership from government, from business, from labour and civil society. I so move. Thank you.
Honourable Sinclair.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I hereby move on behalf of the Congress of the People that on the next sitting day of Council, I shall move that the Council firstly debates the utterances by the African National Congress Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa this past weekend that, and I quote, boors would return to power if people did not vote for the ANC, unquote. Secondly, pronounces itself on these remarks as regrettable, offensive, and not in the spirit of national cohesion, nation building, and a sense of South Africanism. And lastly, Honourable Chairperson, reminds leaders like Ramaphosa that they carry a very strong responsibility to unite South Africans and the common cause of a united and prosperous South Africa. I so move.
Honorable members, does any member wish to move a motion without notice? I will not call all the hands, unfortunately. I will go as far as I can. All other people remain with your hands up. Honorable Mnguni, you can continue to move your motion.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with shock and disappointment the news of the arrest of people for banning the Independent Electoral Commission banner in the Northern Cape. Further notes that four people alleged to have destroyed IEC banners in Kuruman were arrested on Saturday. It is said that the IEC banners mounted at the Takong Tribal Office, Omang Primary School and Lehuru Primary School were set alight amid the voter registration process in those buildings, and three IEC voters registration points were then closed down as a result, and condemned this criminal act which seeks to intimidate the peace-loving South Africans from exercising their democratic right to register to vote. I so move.
An objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Makadla.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes that Sindisiwe Nombulelo Kamete, who is the daughter of Honorable Mr. Dennis Dumisani Kamete, turned 21 on the 2nd of June 2013. Further notes that the Kamete family has arranged umemulo, or a 21st birthday party, for her on the 14th of December 2013, which will be at Kwakamete Mapogweni Reserve in KwaZulu-Natal, takes this opportunity to extend an invitation to all members of the NCOP to Sindisiwe's umemulo, and asks that members who are interested in attending Sindisiwe's umemulo contact Honorable Kamete for their invitations. I thank you.
Any objection to the motion? No objection. Order. Honorable Kamete, can you confirm that? Honorable Kamete. Move your motion, Chief.
On behalf of Honorable Kamete.
Thanks, Chair. And it's only that I was not expecting that. I hereby move without notice that the Council note with appreciation the news of a peace deal signed by the Durban rival taxi associations. Further notes that the two rival taxi associations in Tuzuma signed a peace deal to end a long-standing feud. The Tuzuma and Pisang taxi associations had agreed to withdraw their security companies to share pick-up places in New Road until there was a court decision on a route dispute. Take this opportunity and commend those who work hard around the clock in ensuring that they bring their rivals together. Call all other taxi rival associations to try and negotiate any misunderstanding rather than resorting on shooting because innocent people become targets unnecessarily. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Grade 2 in terms of Section 665 of the Constitution. I thought you were going to confirm the invitation. Honorable Matila.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes the announcement by the Minister of Police last Sunday that 75 suspected drug dealers have been arrested during last week in Kutsong in West Rand in Gauteng, following recent mob justice incidents in the township in which 6 people were attacked and killed for allegedly being involved in gangsterism. Also notes that the announcement by the Minister that 11 police officers in the area have been dismissed from the police service since March this year for having been involved in various acts of criminality. Welcomes the arrest of these suspects and commends the Minister and the police on their commitment in this regard, and takes this opportunity to echo the appeal by the Minister to communities to work with the police to root out crime and also within the police. I so move, Chair.
Any objection to the motion? Grade 2 in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mncube.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes that the City of Tshwane in Gauteng has taken a strong stand against corruption and fraud by launching a dedicated hotline and improving its whistleblowing policy. Notes that corruption, no matter how small, will not be tolerated by the city and the Metropolis. And the Metropolis have issued a warning in this regard when they have arrested municipal workers for selling municipal refuse bags to a businessman for a mere 200 rands. Welcomes the stand of the city against corruption and commends the city and its law enforcement unit on their commitment towards zero tolerance on corruption. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Grade 2 in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Jacobs.
Thanks, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with great concern the news of fire that killed one person and displaced more than 40 others in informal settlement on the Cape Peninsula. Further notes that a man died and about 42 people had been displaced by fires in Elsie's Refir, Guguletu, Scottville, and Nyanga since the start of the weekend. On Saturday morning, 28 people were displaced when a fire destroyed 8 informal structures at the Barcelona informal settlement in Guguletu. Also note that in Crossroad, a house was gutted by a fire at 1:47 a.m. on Saturday morning, and a 27-year-old adult male was declared deceased on scene due to his burns. And take this opportunity to convey our sincere condolences to the family and friends of the deceased during this trying time. Again, call on the Western Cape Provincial Government to speed up the development and delivery of houses in the informal settlement to avoid recurrences. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Kagane.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with shock and concern the number of rape cases involving young children and babies in the Western Cape and elsewhere in the country. Notes in particular the recent horrific and barbaric rape of a 9-month-old baby and 2 young girls of 2 years and 8 years old, respectively, while a teacher appeared in the Blue Downs Magistrate Court for allegedly having raped a 12-year-old schoolgirl. Condemn rapists, especially of a defenseless baby and such a young girls, including teachers who rape schoolgirls, as being nothing less than monsters who should be removed from the society permanently. Condemn these horrific and barbaric deeds, and once again calls on the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development to urgently develop and introduce appropriate amendments to legislation to make provision for compulsory life imprisonment sentences for perpetrators found guilty of such deeds without the possibility of parole. I so move, Chair.
Any objection to the motion? Grade 2 in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Manzini.
Thank you, Honorable. On behalf of the Democratic Alliance, I move a motion without notice that the Council notes that young Tyrone Mondi is a step closer to realizing his dream of becoming a professional soccer player in Europe. Also notes that the 16-year-old from Heidebdal in Bloemfontein beat off competition from other aspirant footballers from across the globe to win the Grand Skills Final of the Bolton Wanderers FC International Soccer School in England, and a scholarship worth 395,000. Further notes that the grade 10 people at Bredna High School in Bloemfontein would like to be like Messi and Ronaldo. Also notes that Bolton Wanderers education football head coach Danny Clark described Tyrone as possessing frightening ability. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Grade 2 in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Swande.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with appreciation the news of the arrest and suspension of the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA, area manager for soliciting a bribe. Further notes that the area manager is accused of soliciting a bribe of about 10,000 rands from the service provider who did not comply with the tender processes. The suspension came into effect after employees' arrest on Thursday, and PRASA has since launched its own internal investigation on the matter, and applaud the good work done by the investigating officers in ensuring that they root out all forms of fraud and corruption. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Temba.
Thank you, Chairperson. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with great concern the news of a strike by the Western Cape farm workers from 4 farms owned by the Leroux Group, which is one of the Boland's largest fruit producers. Further notes that the farm workers downed tools last week in the following farms: Broodkraal in Piketberg, Sand River in Wellington, and Joburgsdal and Mooikelder in Paarl. Striking farm workers are challenging the unlawful deductions and changes to their employment conditions. Also note that yesterday, Monday, the 11th November, farm workers set a truck alight in Wellington, and about 5 hectares, mostly grass, had been burnt, and take this opportunity to call all the affected parties to meet urgently and start a process of finding each other. Also, that together we must work very hard to try and avert what happened during last year's strike. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. The 2 members will be Honorable Chane and the last one, Mr. Mufokeng. Honorable Chane.
Thank you, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council knows that South Africa's third post-apartheid treason trial, probably the most expensive criminal case in South African history, costing taxpayers in excess of 36 million rand to date, has come to an end recently when 20 convicts of the far right-wing Boeremag movement have been sentenced by the North Gauteng High Court to imprisonment term of up to 35 years for high treason and other charges. Commends the National Prosecuting Authority, the police, and all other role players who have worked tirelessly for more than a decade to ensure the outcome of this case, which will hopefully act as a deterrent to those who threaten to stabilize the country and its democracy. And also takes this opportunity to commend the African National Congress government on its commitment to and protection of human rights, and also on its commitment and striving towards ensuring a better life for all South Africans united in our diversity. I so moved.
Any objection to the motion? Grade 2 in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Honorable Mufokeng.
Thanks, Chair. I hereby move without notice that the Council notes with concern the protest action from residents from Delft in Cape Town against taxi violence and allegation of corruption in the taxi industry and of corrupt policemen who are also taxi owners. Notes that over the past 18 months, at least 20 people have been killed or injured in taxi violence in the Western Cape, including ordinary innocent passengers, while children cannot go to school safely. Notes that while members of the police are legally not allowed to have an operating license to own a taxi, communities are reluctant to report tax-related crimes to police who themselves are involved in the taxi industry. Calls on the Western Cape MEC for Transport to launch a comprehensive investigation into the allegations and concern and to implement appropriate measures to stabilize the situation and to root out corruption in the industry and to prevent the unlawful issuing of operating licenses, and also to withdraw any licenses that were issued unlawfully, and also calls on the Minister of Transport to monitor the situation closely and to intervene appropriately if necessary. I so move.
Any objection to the motion? Grade 2 in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. We now come to the motion on the order paper as moved by the Chief Whip of the Council.
Thank you, Chair. I move as printed in the order paper.
As there is no speakers list, I shall now put a question, and the question is that the motion be agreed to. As the decision is dealt with Section 65 of the Constitution, I shall first ascertain whether all delegation heads are present in the chamber to cast their province's vote. Are you present? Yes. In accordance with Rule 7.1, I'll first allow provinces opportunity to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any province that wish to do so? None. We shall proceed to the voting of the question. I'll do so also in an alphabetical manner, but I'll use the electronic voting. Heads of delegates will vote in favor, against, or abstain button. The voting has commenced. If you have a problem, please raise your hand. The staff will assist. Okay, Honorable Makata, are you voting in favor or against?
Is that any in favor?
In favor, Honorable Madikale Limpopo? Liadumel. Okay, all other members, have you voted electronically? Northwest? We support it. You support. All 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the motion agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Order, the Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Consideration of rates and monetary amounts and amendment of revenue laws bill, B12 of 2013.
I now call upon the Honorable Charles Bier.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Deputy Minister and Honourable Members, the Rates and Monetary Amounts and Amendment of Revenue Laws Bill provides to enact changes to tax rates, excesses and monetary limits. These changes were announced during the 2013 budget speech by the Minister of Finance and were published in the 2013 budget review. Most of these changes are already being implemented but require legislative approval. The bill provides tax relief for individual income taxpayers by adjusting the personal income tax brackets. The total tax relief provided amounts to 7 billion rand. The relief provides for the fiscal drag where individuals move to higher income tax brackets due to the inflationary adjustment to their wages and salaries and real income relief over the medium term. The monetary amounts of the monthly medical tax credits are increased in line with inflation. The medical tax credits aim to make medical scheme membership more affordable for the middle income earners. The bill also provides income tax relief for small businesses. Regarding non-retirement savings, tax-free interest income annual thresholds will be increased from 33,000 to 34,500 for individuals 65 years and older, and from 22,800 to 23,800 for individuals below 65 years of age, with effect from the 1st of March 2013. These thresholds will not be adjusted for inflation in future years. The bill further provides for increases in the monetary amounts of various specific indirect taxes. The honourable members in the Select Committee for Finance raised the following matters: that the committee should be afforded enough time to process Section 75 and 77 legislation, more especially when processing bills that have a tax implication. That the National Treasury and South African Revenue Service should discuss the way that members of Parliament are taxed. The National Treasury should prioritize the suspension of taxing the special pension for military veterans. That the National Treasury should also review the tax-free interest income annual threshold on non-retirement savings to start at 60 years as opposed to the current 65 years. That government through the Department of Energy should introduce a process to scrap the incandescent light bulbs over a stipulated period, as the tax imposed on these light bulbs affects the poorest of the poor. And the government should consider the annual ceiling of bursaries given to employees' relatives for basic education, that's 10,000 rand, and higher education, that's 30,000 rand, as companies that are willing to offer more than the annual ceiling get to be heavily taxed. Honourable Chairperson, the Select Committee on Finance, having considered and examined the rates and monetary amounts and amendment of the Revenue Laws Bill, B12 of 2013, National Assembly, Section 77, referred to it and classified by the JTM as a Section 77 bill report, it has agreed to the bill without amendments, and I move that the House adopts the bill. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honourable members, that concludes the debate. I shall now put a question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of vote as they so wish. Any political party that wish to do so? None. We shall now proceed to the voting. We'll use our electronic voting. Voting has commenced. Limpopo?
Limpopo votes in favor.
In favor? Northwest?
We vote in favor, Chair.
In favor. Yeah, no. Sorry for that. This is the 75 bill. We are all voting. Sorry for that. Yes. Use your electronic system to vote. Have you all voted? Okay, can I get the results from the staff? Mr. Bloom? You've not voted?
Chair, this thing is not working.
What are you voting? Just tell me.
In favor.
In favor. Mr. Bloom, I'm told you have not logged on. Just log on. No, let's not debate. Just try to log on for the next votes, because we are going to vote again. But you are voting in favor. Okay. Can I get the results, please?
41 votes, 42 including Mr. Bloom. So the majority of members have voted in favor.
Where's that? 43. 42 members have voted in favor. The majority of members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the second order of the day.
Consideration of Deeds Registries Amendment Bill B10B of 2013 and report of Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs thereon.
Honorable Kekane.
Thank you, Chairperson, Minister, Deputy Minister, honorable members. This afternoon, I'm given the opportunity to share with you the deliberation that Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs held on the Deeds Register Amendment Bill, B10B 2013, that was introduced by the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform to Parliament. The main objective of the bill was to amend the Deeds Register Act 1937 so as to provide discretion in respect of the rectification of errors in the name of a person or the description of property mentioned in deeds and other documents, to provide for the issuing of certificate and registered title taking place of the deeds that have become incomplete or unserviceable, to substitute an absolute reference, to substitute an outdated heading, to delete reference to the repealed Agricultural Credit Act 1966, to further regulate the updating of deeds in respect of the change of names of companies, close corporations, and the surnames of women, to amend a definition and to provide for matters connected therewith. After receiving a briefing by the department, a clause-by-clause analysis of the bill was conducted, and the provinces present deliberated on the amendments. The Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs, having deliberated on and considered the subject of the Deeds Regis Amendment Bill B10B 2013, classified by the JTM as a Section 75 bill, and referred to the committee on the 19th September 2013, agrees to the bill without amendments. I thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put a question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In terms of Rule 6.3, I shall first allow parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Is there any party that wish to do so? None. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. Members can begin to vote. Is it 75? We're all voting. All voted? Mr. De Beer voted. Okay. Mr. Villiers? You okay? Commissioner voted? Are you voting? Yes. How are you voting? In favor. Okay. Voting closed. Have everybody voted? Right. I'll get the results from the staff. "39 members have voted. There was no abstention and no objection. Therefore, the majority of members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution." The Secretary will read the third order of the day.
Consideration of Lotteries Amendment Bill B21B of 2013 and of report of Select Committee on Trade and International Relations thereon.
Honorable Nyambi.
Thanks, Chair. Deputy Minister of Finance,
Order.
Honorable Nene, honorable members.
Honorable Temba, speak softly with Honorable Member Denny.
In 2008 and 2009, there was a public outcry regarding accessibility of funds and, importantly, that funds do not reach the intended beneficiaries. The Minister of Trade and Industry called a roundtable with relevant stakeholders to investigate the causes of this outcry. This process identified the causes and proposed intervention to improve the distribution of funds. The assessment revealed, among others, that the requirements for accessing funds were too strict and excluded the majority of deserving organizations, that it took on average more than 2 years for beneficiaries to receive payment from National Lotteries Board, and that vacancies and conflict of interest in the distribution agencies impaired quorum for adjudication. The need to amend the Lotteries Act followed the assessment of challenges that impaired effectiveness and efficiency in the distribution of funds. In the assessment, it was clear that most of the challenges identified were a result of inefficiencies in the National Lotteries Board, and specific actions were identified for implementation by the board. These include the review of the organizational structure of the National Lotteries Board to provide for appropriate capacity to deliver, streamlining internal processes for receiving and processing applications, upgrading the grant management system to enhance efficiencies, improving turnaround times for application processes and payment to beneficiaries, and communicating better with the public and beneficiaries. Honorable Chairperson, the application process for funds in the National Lottery Distribution Trust Fund has proven to be complex and affects accessibility of funds to most deserving organizations or good causes. The objective of the bill is therefore to introduce policy interventions to address the challenges identified during the implementation of the Act and as identified by various assessments. There are several proposed amendments which are administrative in nature, intended to clarify the functionary and structure that has the legislative competence to execute the mandate. The amendment to the Act should spell out the provisions dealing with the roles of distribution agencies and ensure that such supply consistently across the entity. The full-time and professionalized nature of distribution function should also address the concern around turnaround times, quorum, and inefficiencies in the distribution of funds. Dedicated adjudication on a daily basis should make way for applications that are not only conditional to calls for applications being issued, but could be made at any time based on the needs of the application and the timing of the relevant project for good cause. Honorable Chairperson, the amendment bill contains clauses referring to the establishment of the National Lottery Commission, which shall serve as a lottery regulator, extension of the powers of the board, which shall also be empowered to serve as a review structure against decision of distribution agency relating to the adjudication application of grants, overlapping of powers between minister and the board. Distribution agencies section of the Principal Act are amended to delete the reference to the minister when an appointment of a distribution agency is made by the minister, while the distribution agencies are mandated to abdicate on the application and decide on the allocation of the grants to suitable beneficiaries in line with the Principal Act. Honorable Chairperson, the draft policy on lotteries bill was adopted in April 2013 and the bill was published on the 8th of May 2013. Comments closed on 7 June 2013. There was no policy changes to the bill and it was submitted to the state law advisors for certification. The bill was certified on the 10th of July 2013 and was introduced into Parliament in the week of the 22nd to July 2013. Public hearings were held in the week of 12 August. The Select Committee of Trade and International Relations, having considered the subject, agreed to the bill. I thank you.
Honorable members, that concludes the debate on the bill. I shall now put the question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with the Rule 6.3, I will allow the political parties who wish to make declaration of votes if they so wish. Any political party that wish to do so? None. We proceed to the voting, and the voting commence. It's a 75, all of us. Everybody voted? Voting closed. I'll now get to the results. Thirty-three members have voted in favor, no abstention and no objection. 9 against, I'm sorry. 9 against. 33 voted in favor, 9 against. The majority of the members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the fourth order of the day.
Consideration of Employment Tax Incentive Bill, B46 of 2013, and of report of Select Committee on Finance thereon.
I now call upon the Honorable Charles de Beer.
Honorable Chairperson, the Employment Tax Incentive Bill aims at encouraging employees to give young, first-time job seekers their first work experience. This is no single policy intervention that can address. There is no single policy intervention that can address the myriad causes of unemployment. But the employment tax incentive will contribute to the removal of one of the constraints of lack of experience. More than 25% of South Africans are unemployed. This is a major barrier to the transformation of our economy. Unemployment is the highest among young people, with 42% of those aged between 19 and 29 years who are unable to find work. The private sector, Honourable Chairperson, is a crucial role player at any intervention aimed at reducing unemployment. The objectives of the incentive is as follows. It is to improve employment prospects for young workers over the medium term by giving work experience. Government will also share the initial cost of hiring with the employer to boost job creation. The work experience gained will improve long-term employment prospects. It incentivizes the employment in special economic zones and designated industries. Jobs created will enjoy protection under the labor law legislation. Penalties for abuse and displacement of employees will avoid adverse impact on existing workers. By offering an incentive to hire workers, it intends to attract investment that can result in more inclusive economic benefits. The difference between the application of the employment tax incentive inside and out of special economic zones is that this incentive will have no age limits. Young people participating in the program will earn an income and also gain work experience. Employees will also be able to claim the learnership tax incentive when these workers are engaged in a learnership or an apprenticeship. The incentive will not be available to employers that do not meet their legal obligation to employees. This will be assured through three mechanisms. One, employers will only be able to claim the incentive for wages that are in line with the applicable minimum wage set in the bargaining structure or by ministerial extension. An employer will be penalized and disqualified from using the incentive if any employee is unfairly dismissed in order to receive the incentive. The proposed penalty will amount to 150% of the value of the incentive claimed in the 12 months before the abuse. And the Minister of Finance, after consultation with the Labour Minister, will be able to prescribe conditions to counter abuse by regulations. This intervention forms part of the programs that fall under the umbrella of government's youth employment strategy, the Youth Employment Accord, or complementary programs that are already in place to address structural unemployment. Honourable Chairperson, the Select Committee of Finance agreed to the bill and call on the House to adopt it. Thank you, Chairperson.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In terms of Rule 6.3, I'll first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any political party? None. We shall then begin voting. Members can vote. All of us who can vote. Nothing. All right, I will ask you to raise your hands. We'll do the calculation quickly. Staff, can you calculate, or whips? Whips can help us calculate quickly. Pardon? Those who are in favor, yes. All right. 39 voted in favor. Those who are against? Okay. Those who are abstaining? Okay. 39 members voted in favor. Therefore, the majority of members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the fifth order of the day.
Consideration of Financial Services Laws General Amendment Bill B29B of 2012 and the report of Select Committee on Finance thereon.
Honorable Charles de Beer.
Honourable Chairperson, the Financial Services Laws General Amendment Bill aims to ensure that South Africa has a sounder and better regulated financial services industry, which promotes financial stability and have a strong financial sector regulatory framework and enhanced supervisory powers over for the regulators. The bill also addresses several urgent areas, namely gaps identified by the IMF and the World Bank, that's the Financial Sector Assessment Program, to adhere to international standards for financial regulation. South Africa is currently undergoing a peer review on the implementation of the FSAP. Aligning the financial sector legislation with the New Companies Act and ensuring higher consumer protection standards and removing duplications in terms of the Consumer Protection Act. Align terminology used in all FSB legislation with terminology used in the Companies Act. Align certain duties stipulated in the financial sector legislation with how those duties are reflected in the New Companies Act. To ensure that FSB legislation appropriately refers to business rescue procedures in the New Companies Act while retaining existing enforcement procedures contained in the Financial Institutions Act, so that registrars have appropriate mechanisms at their disposal to appropriately enforce their legislation. Section 22 and 23 of the FSB Act is also amended. And then there are key changes to the Pension Funds Act, referring to the Deputy Principal Officer, referring to a requirement for a board member training. That is very serious, that members on those boards are trained and have the high level of skills. Also to curb the undertaking of non-registered fund business. Also the liability of trustees and the division of pension interest. Other amendments in the bill are referred to the amendment of the Cooperatives Bank Act as required, to the supervisory function of the Cooperative Banks Development Agency that will be transferred to the South African Reserve Bank, and provide for the South African Reserve Bank to be the sole supervisor of the Cooperatives Bank. An amendment to the definition of business of a medical scheme in the Medical Schemes Act is also proposed and seeks to make the definition of medical schemes clear as required to support demarcation regulations, which the National Treasury, together with the Department of Health, are finalizing. The regulations aim to clearly distinguish health insurance policies from medical schemes policies. Honourable Chairperson, the Select Committee on Finance have considered the Financial Services Law Amendment Bill, B29B of 12, Section 75, and recommends to the House to adopt the bill. But we have the following matters to raise. That the Minister of Finance should review the enforcement powers that are given to the Registrar for the Financial Services Board. An investigation should be undertaken to establish the basis of the negative reporting on the Financial Services Board regarding its handling of some pension funds and its relationship with the curators, which cast doubts on its professional integrity and that of the institution, and it be giving more powers. This could have some serious implications on the integrity of the institution of the Financial Services Board if such are not investigated, as it has been the norm with other financial institutions residing under the National Treasury, like the South African Reserve Service, SARS. We agreed to the bill and call on the House to adopt it. Thank you, Chairperson.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to in terms of Rule 6.3. I'll first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any political party? None. Will therefore proceed to voting. Voting has commenced. All of us is 75. Your machines are not working. Okay. Okay, Honorable Chief Whip? It's working now. All right, those who have voted through the machine, it's fine. Those who are voting in favor and their machines are not working, raise your hands. Those who are in favor. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor, adding to the electronic one. Those who are objecting, against. There's one hand against. Order those who are abstaining. Those who are abstaining? None. Okay, I'll get the results.
It's working now. There you go.
Objection. No, it was one. The objections again, so that we record them properly. Those who are objecting? Yes. I say those who are objecting, just raise your hands. We want to have a proper record. So we've got the majority. Okay, I've got the results. 10 voted against and 34 voted in favor. The majority of members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 6th order of the day.
Consideration of Tax Administration Laws Amendment Bill B40 of 2013 and of report of Select Committee on Finance thereof.
Honorable Chane.
Chair.
Order, is there somebody with raising a hand up? Is it Charles de Beer?
It should be Charles de Beer, Chair.
It should be Charles de Beer.
Yes.
But on the order paper it says Honorable Chane, T.E.
Which bill is that?
I mean on the speaker's list.
Which bill is that, Chair?
All right, let's change it. So fine. Charles, take the floor. Are you ready?
3940.
Now, I'm not going to argue. Honorable Chane, speak. You are on the speaker's list.
Yes, Chair. May I get the bill again correctly? Which bill is this?
It's Consideration of Tax Administration Laws Amendment Bill.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Chair. Chair, the taxation law and its enforcement play a vital role in the strengthening of the fiscus and economy. The Minister of Finance in the 2013 national budget announced a number of tax proposals of changes to South African tax laws. This bill provides for some of the proposals referred to in the national budget. International shipping transport conducted by South African companies are subject to tax at 28%, while net income of foreign shipping controlled foreign companies are exempted if the shipping is conducted outside South Africa. The proposed change to this section of the Act is to provide a new regime to exempt international shipping transport companies. The bill also provides amendment to Clause 59(1)(a) on ring-fencing of net foreign trade losses. The reason is that current technical wording of ring-fencing provision appears to leave space for setting off foreign losses against South Africa passive income. The proposed amendment is ring-fencing provision to expressly protect domestic base against any foreign loss. The bill further introduces a new withholding tax on fees for South Africa sourced services as a means to identify and collect tax from foreign entities with local permanent establishments. This new tax mainly applies to non-treaty partners, with treaty partners merely identified if have permanent establishment or not. With regard to indirect tax, the bill makes provision for compulsory registration, which may be triggered, 1, if a person makes less than 1 million rand supplies in preceding 12 months period, or 2, if a person reasonably expects to make supplies of 1 million rand in the next period of 12 months. The proposed amendments provides for the predictive element associated with 1 million rand threshold is eliminated. Meanwhile, voluntary registration is streamlined in 2 types, traditional and fast-track VAT registration. In the main, no monetary threshold will be applicable. Persons seeking registration will be allowed to register easily. With regard to e-commerce VAT registration, currently foreign suppliers of e-commerce services to South Africa customers are not compelled to register for VAT. These foreign suppliers transact wholly over the internet and have no physical presence in South Africa. Recipients of e-commerce services are required to self-assess the VAT on supplies received. This VAT charge is known as the reverse charge. The proposed amendment in the bill places supply rule for foreign e-commerce foreign supplies added. Foreign suppliers are compelled to register for VAT if e-commerce services are supplied to 1, a South African resident customer, or 2, payment for such services originate from a bank registered in terms of South African Banks Act. However, the committee expressed concern on enforcement to this proposed amendment. Foreign suppliers are compelled to register irrespective of the aggregate value of supplies made in 12-month period. Foreign suppliers are allowed to register on payment basis to streamline administration. The Select Committee on Finance, having considered Taxation Laws Amendment Bill, referred to it and classified by joint taking mechanism as Section 75 Bill, reports that it has agreed to the bill without amendments. I move that the House adopts the bill. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable members, that concludes the debate. I shall now put a question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In terms of Rule 6.3, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any political party that wish to do so? Yes, Mr. Tibilas? Yes.
Honorable Chani, he read number 7 on the order paper.
He read number 7 on the order paper.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Is it what you read, Mr. Chani? Just check properly.
Yes, Chair, it would seem so.
All right. Can you then take the podium again and read the right one? We will take number 7 as being read. We're not going to repeat it again. We'll just vote when we come to it. Yeah. You found the right one? You don't find it?
I can't find it.
Okay. Talk to the bill.
Chair, in light of the mix-up of my documents, may I request that I don't read the statement in full, but would submit the full
All
statement.
right, let's do so. Let's skip number 6. We'll come back to it when you get it.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'll just mark here that we skip it for now. And then we go to 7, which is already read. Let me hear the staff seems to be proposing something. No, it's okay. It's okay. Let them discuss first, and then they will come back to me. We'll leave it now. Once it's sorted out, they will report to the chair. Now we come to bill number 7, which has been already read. I'm going to put the same question, the bill that is consideration of taxation laws amendment bill and a report of Select Committee on Finance. That was read, Mr. Chane. we will now vote on it. Is there anybody from the political parties who wish to make a declaration of vote? No. The voting has commenced on number 7. Yes, we were voting, all of us. It's a section 75. The system is not working. Kwenza njani lapho phezulu? All right, must vote ngesandla. Whips, just count quickly for us and count yourself. Those who vote in favor, those who have voted electronically, don't raise your hands. Only those that their system is not working, raise your hands. And we are voting, those who are voting in favor. There's another one. 6, except those who have voted electronically, are voting in favor. Yes, Honorable.
I made a mistake. My hand went to against. I just want to withdraw that.
Okay. Okay. You voted in favor. Those who are voting against? Those who are voting against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You voted in a machine. All right. 6. 7, including Kunda. Do you get 7 also? Let's be simple, because the recording must be correct. Let's raise our hands. Those against. Against. Okay. 34. Where's that voting thing? Oh, it's order number 7. Just. Okay. 10 and 34. Okay, I've got the record now. Mr. Nyambi. Order. Mr. Nyambi.
Chair, is it parliamentary for Honorable Gunda to wear Madiba t-shirt and undermine the policies that Madiba stood for?
No, he's what, I mean, I think the way he's dressed, the dress code is not bad. I think it's fine. Ten has voted against and 34 has voted in favor. The majority of the members have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. Can we go to 6 is now sorted out? Mr. Chane? You can now come back.
Thank you, Chair. The Select Committee on Finance have been briefed on the proposed amendments by the National Treasury regarding the tax administration laws. This bill proposes amendments to administrative provisions of the following acts: the Transfer Duty Act, the Income Tax Act, the Custom and Excise Act, Skills Development Levies, Value Added Tax Act, Unemployment Insurance Contributions Act, Minerals and Petroleum Resources Royalty Act, as well as the Tax Administrative Act. With regard to the provisions of some of the acts, one will highlight the following. Under the Income Tax Act, the Clause 5 is reviewed, that is dealing with the returns by recipients of exempt dividends. And under Custom Excise Act, Clause 9 is amended, that deals with duties and powers of the officers, with specific reference to the search and seizure provisions. And under the same Act, Customs and Excise Act, the other clause that is being reviewed is clause 10 that deals with the powers of officers relating to criminal prosecutions and control areas in a special economic zones, which is clause 11. And the same Act as Customs and Excise, clause 13 and 14 that deals with currency conversions on imports and export is also being reviewed. And the other amendments to Tax Administration Act deals with the following. Tax court jurisdiction is extended to the PAJA review matters. The legal proceedings becomes mandatory prior notices to SARS, and public officers extended to non-officers of a company. The commissioner may require returns not specifically required under the Act. The mandatory withdrawal of judgment if tax debt is paid. The manner of submitting information in criminal matters. Recovery limited to outstanding tax debt. And the legal costs recovered by state attorneys paid over to SARS. In conclusion, Chair, the Select Committee on Finance, having considered the Tax Administration Laws Amendment Bill, recommends that Parliament approves these amendments. I thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question, and the question is that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 6.3, I shall first allow political parties to make their declaration of votes if they so wish. Any that wish to do so? None. We proceed to the voting. Voting has commenced. Have all members voted? Yes. Okay, thank you. Voting closed. I'll now call for the results. Thank you very much. No abstentions, no objection. 43 members voted in favor of the bill. The majority of members, therefore, have voted in favor. I therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 75 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 8th order of the day.
Consideration of Division of Revenue Amendment Bill B38 of 2013 and of report of Select Committee on Appropriations thereof.
I now call upon the Honorable Chane. You've got the right one now.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, the Select Committee on Appropriation, having considered the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill B38 of 2013,
Which one was that?
and having engaged with various stakeholders, the committee made the following findings and observation. There was an upward adjustment of the provincial equitable share meant for compensation of public service employees and improvements in conditions of service. The committee is, however, concerned that there seems to be no correlation between increase in salaries and improved service delivery, as well as continued reliance on consultants by government departments. Some provinces have continued the underspending of conditional grants allocated to them, and that hampers service delivery. This has led to reallocation of funds from such poor spending grants, and this might cause unintended consequences like lower outputs and outcomes. Other than underspending and then applying for rollovers or declaring savings, the departments were now adopting a new approach of declaring underspending, and that occurs only within 5 months after the budget has been passed. Declared underspending, like undeclared underspending, has the potential to compromise service delivery and might also obscure the actual performance of certain programs. Rollovers in some cases have the potential to put extra pressure on capacity to spend by receiving institutions, since such funds flow into their new budget. Only one incident of withholding was reported, that is for Bela Bela local municipality in Limpopo, but the committee is concerned that despite its corrective nature, withholding would harm recipients of services more than officials responsible. Following a lack of spending on health facility revitalization grant, a saving of 200 million was declared. While rescheduling part of the funds, is understood. Declaring an underspending as a saving might signal a wrong message that underspending is being condoned. Having considered the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, the committee recommends to the House that it be adopted without amendments. I thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. I shall put the question that the bill be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest,
In favor?
Western Cape. Eight provinces have voted in favor. I shall therefore declare the bill agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 9th order of the day. I'll now call upon Honorable Motsisi.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Finance, draft credit rating agency rules submitted for parliamentary scrutiny in terms of Section 24(3)(a)(2) of the Credit Rating Service Act 2012, number 24 of 2012.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. A statement on the draft credit rating agency rules submitted for parliamentary scrutiny in terms of Section 24(3)(a)(2) of the Credit Rating Services Act, number 24 of 2012. Dated November 13. Background. The credit rating agencies play a critical role in establishing investor confidence. For the past years, credit rating agencies in South Africa have not been regulated. The Credit Rating Services Act 2012, passed by both Houses of Parliament, came into operation on the 15th April 2013. Draft rules to the Act were published in August 2011, with the bill undergoing public comments in line with Section 24 of this Act. These comments were considered and incorporated in the draft rules. Scope of the draft rules. Draft rules are divided into 11 parts. Introduction. The introduction contains definitions and applications for these rules, and then organizational requirements. This provides for the structure of the board of a credit rating agency and the duties when it outsources functions, and its duties for outsourcing functions, I suppose. And the independence and conflict of interest. The credit rating agency must manage and disclose conflict of interest. And then under the quality and integrity of the credit ratings, the CRA must ensure that its methodology are such as to ensure integrity of the rating and the rating process. And then under presentation of credit rating, the CRA present its ratings in the manner that methodologies are explained and other aspects are taken into account in the rating. Furthermore, any attributes and limitations of the ratings are clearly and prominently stated. Under additional obligations in relation to structured finance instruments, The CRA has the additional duties of disclosure and assessment of ratings where it rates a structured finance instrument, disclosures and record keeping. The rules require the CRA to annually disclose to the registrar the number of ratings issued, rating scale used, reasons for changes or withdrawal of ratings. And then under advertising and guarantee, as well as insurance cover. CRA must ensure advertising is not misleading and must maintain appropriate guarantees or professional indemnity or fidelity insurance cover to mitigate the risk inherent in its business. Under responsibilities and investors of the public, ratings must be distributed in timely. It must be distributed timely and in a transparent manner. Most importantly, confidential information must be protected. The committee noted all these provisions and recommended that the CRA should ensure that the disadvantaged communities are not adversely affected by the provisions. Concluding remarks. Select Committee on Finance, having considered the request for approval by Parliament of the draft credit ratings agency rules, submitted to Parliament scrutiny in terms of Section 24(3)(a)(2) of the Credit Rating Services Act, number 24 of 2012, recommends to the House to approve the said draft credit rating agency rules without amendments. I so move. Thank you.
That concludes the debate. Shall put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow the provinces the opportunity to declare their vote, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, and Western Cape. Eight provinces have voted in favor. 1 abstained. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 10th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Finance, agreement between the Government of the Republic of South Africa and the Government of the Republic of Mozambique on combined border control posts on the Mozambique-South African border.
Honorable Fak.
Honorable Deputy Chair, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable members, the efficient operation of borders can expand markets, reduce costs for producers, resulting in an increase in profits and therefore economic growth. However, the opposite can be a hindrance to the economy and therefore become a trade barrier. For the past decades, Africa has been in process of promoting unity enhancing economic growth and the economic independence of the African continent. Numerous initiatives have been put in play to achieve self-sufficiency of African countries. Amongst others are the promotion of intra-Africa trade and the acceleration of infrastructure development across the continent. The National Development Plan aims to increase intra-regional trade in Southern Africa from 7% of trade to 25% of trade by 2030 and emphasizes that this can be achieved through investment on road, rail and port infrastructure in the region. Promotion of intra-Africa trade has manifested in the creation of regional economic communities and custom unions all over the continent, such as the Southern African Development Communities, Southern African Customs Union, East African Community, and others. For intra-Africa trade to effectively take place, infrastructure within countries should be in good condition, which includes the efficient operation of border control posts. Border control posts manage the flow of people between countries and, most importantly, the flow of the country's products. Therefore, borders have the potential to restrict or expand countries' resources and economic activity. For the past 3 years, South Africa has been exporting more to Mozambique than it imports. This trend has become more apparent from 2010 to 2012. South Africa's total average exports and imports amounted to 16.9 billion and 7.2 billion, respectively, over the past 3 years. This indicates that South Africa is a net exporter to Mozambique. The top exports to Mozambique are electrical energy, bituminous coal and coal briquettes, and the top imports are light petroleum oils, natural gas, liquefied and light petroleum oil preparations. The first annexure of the agreement offers detail to the designation and delimitation of combined border posts, control zones, and area for exclusive use, land transport infrastructure, railroad and pedestrian, and location of office buildings will also be identified and designed by both countries. Detailed maps, drawings, plans, photos, and diagrams should be decided upon through the cooperation of both countries, with English and Portuguese used in all the signage within the one-stop border posts. Annex 2 delineates the deals on joint control and management of border crossing activities in respect of persons, goods, and means of transport. Competent authorities of both countries will negotiate and formulate standard operating procedures on administrative and operational procedures. Joint committees and teams are necessary for the purpose of ensuring joint control and management of the one-stop border posts will be formed. The third annex mainly provides detail on establishing, owning, managing, and maintenance of infrastructure, facilities, assets, and amenities for the implementation of one-stop border posts. Both countries will establish road, rail, and ICT infrastructure within their territory. This infrastructure establishment should optimally contribute to the efficient flow between the two countries. Each country will own the infrastructure, facilities, and assets assembled in their territory. Both countries should develop procedures to guide shared assets and facilities. Similarly, an agreement should be reached on the methods used in managing and maintaining the proposed combined one-stop border post. It is recommended that the House agree to the provisions stipulated in the annexures of the agreement between the Government of the Republic of South Africa and the Government of the Republic of Mozambique on combined border control post on the Mozambique-South Africa border, tabled in terms of Section 231, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996. I so move.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. The question is that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting. I'll do this in alphabetical order. Eastern Cape, Free State,
Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, and Western Cape.
I indicated that we vote in favor.
9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 11th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Women, Children and People with Disabilities, implementation of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities.
I now call upon Honorable Mohoro.
Yes, Deputy Chair, thank you very much. Last year, the Portfolio Committee and Select Committee on Women, Youth, Children and People with Disability conducted public hearings on the implementation of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the People with Disability. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, South Africa ratified the convention and optionalized protocol on 30th November 2007. Portfolio Committee and Select Committee on Women, Youth, Children and People with Disability held public hearings. Several written and 15 oral submissions were submitted from all over South Africa. The hearing made it evident that access to education remains a major concern for children, youth and persons with disability. Special schools, their resourcing, quality education and curriculum were some of the concerns raised regarding such schools for children with disability. The public reported on the sexual abuse, maltreatment and neglect, particularly on children and women with intellectual disability. Psychosocial disabilities were received. With regard to the transport, members of the public highlighted that the convention is weak on its identification of transport services as a means of mobilizing people with disability to be able to participate in society. Submission indicated a need for strategies and integrated plans that consider and include the needs of people with disability. Finally, there is a need to change perception in the way that communities, families, and society at large engage with persons with disability. The Department for Women, Children, and People with Disability has recently informed Parliament that that country's report on United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability has been approved by Cabinet and has been submitted to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation to be deposited at the United Nations. This is a positive step in a right direction in ensuring that the rights of people with disability are honored and realized. Thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to in accordance with Rule 71. I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province.
Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, Western Cape, Nine provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 12th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Security and Constitutional Development, draft 2013 Legal Aid Guide.
I'll now call upon Honorable Mafuke.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Section 3A, subsection 1A determines that subject to the provisions of the Legal Aid Act and in order to attain its objects and to exercise its powers referred to in section 3D and DA, the board shall in consultation with the minister include particulars of the scheme under which legal aid is rendered or made available to the procedure for its administration in a guide called Legal Aid Board. In terms of section 3A2, the board must, in addition to the submission of its annual report, submit the legal aid guide, which must be tabled by the minister in the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces for ratification, and pending such ratification, the legal aid guide then in operation shall continue to apply. The following were the amendments made to the guide. In criminal cases, children in conflict with the law have been included as a category of persons entitled to legal aid under the Constitution. In civil matters, approval for legal aid for additional civil matters has been limited to instances where the matter on a balance of probabilities has a chance of success and the cost of the case justify the benefit to the legal aid applicant. Other cases include the simple divorce cases, eviction cases where assistance can be granted to negotiate with the owner to allow the client some time in the property, uncontested divorces, domestic violence cases to protect the best interest of the child, and the administration of estates. A commission of inquiry where Legal Aid South Africa is mandated and funded by the establishing authority of the commission. Legal aid should be provided for the purpose of legal representation of witnesses appearing before the Commission of Inquiry, where the Commission has certified that they have standing before the Commission. Where such funding is not made available and subject to Legal Aid South Africa being able to allocate resources, then legal aid will only be made available in exceptional circumstances, provided that such people are indigent and qualify in terms of the means test, and such people have been certified by the Commissioner that they have a proper standing before the Commission. Other amendments include the miscellaneous matters, the Section 204 witnesses, extradition proceedings, impact litigation matters and cooperation agreements, judicial practitioners, the means test. The committee having considered the guide before it, recommend that the Council pass the amendments to the 2013 Legal Aid Guide as passed by the committee on the 9th October. Thank you very much.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape? Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest,
In favor, Chair.
Western Cape, Nine provinces have voted in favor.
Of report of Select Committee on Security and of the implementation of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court Act 2002.
Over persons of the most serious crimes of international concern. 2000. Of these countries, 34 are from Africa, 18 from Asia Pacific, 18 from Eastern Europe, 26 from Latin America and the Caribbean, and 25 from Western Europe and North America. In order to domesticate this statute, South Africa promulgated the implementation of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court Act 27 of 2002. This act provides a framework to ensure the effective implementation of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court in Africa to ensure that South Africa conforms with its obligations set out in the statute, to provide for the crime of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, to provide for the prosecution in South African courts of persons accused of having committed the said crimes in South Africa and beyond the borders of South Africa in certain circumstances, to provide for the arrest of persons accused of having committed the said crimes and their surrender to the said court in certain circumstances, to provide for cooperation by South Africa with the said court and to provide for matters connected therewith. Section 10, subsection 8G of the implementation of the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court 2000, number 27 of 2002. The Rule Board for Courts of Law established by Section 2 of the Rules Board for Courts of Law Act 1985, Act number 7 of 1985, must within 6 months after the date of commencement of this Act make and implement rules of procedure which provide for the expeditious and urgent finalization of the appeal contemplated in this section. Any rule made under paragraph G must, before publication thereof in the Gazette as contemplated in section 6, subsection 4 of the Rules Board for Courts, be approved by Parliament. I table the report for adoption. Thank you.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question. Questions that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. We shall do this in alphabetical order. Per province, heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest,
In favor, Chair.
and Western Cape. 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 14th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Security and Constitutional Development, lifting of the provisional suspension of Magistrate FKS Ntuli and additional magistrate at Uitenhage.
I'll now call upon Honorable Ranke. Oh, for Fukeng. Sorry, Fukeng.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Mr. Ntuli was arrested on Friday, 17 August 2012 on a charge of drunken driving. He was allegedly found by a police officer in town around 7:15 driving alone in a motor vehicle which was moving from one lane to another. There was an indication that the driver was not in proper control of the motor vehicle. Mr. Ntuli was issued with a written warning to appear in court at Uitenhage on 13 February 2013. Mr. Ntuli had a previous conviction of the same offense, and during this period he was charged with misconduct, found guilty, and strongly reprimanded by the presiding officer to refrain from any similar misconduct in the future. At this meeting held on the 29th and 30th November 2012, the Magistrates Commission considered Mr. Ntuli's responses and resolved to recommend that Mr. Ntuli be provisionally suspended from office in terms of Section 13, subsection 3A of the Magistrate Act 90 of 1993, pending the investigation into his fitness to hold office. The Commission was of the view that the existing evidence against Mr. Ntuli was of such a serious nature as to make it inappropriate for him to perform the functions of a magistrate while the allegations were being investigated. The Commission indicated that it would be inappropriate for a judicial officer who was appearing for a second time as an accused before a court of law on a charge of drunken driving to continue to sit on the bench. On the 21st May 2013, the Select Committee concurred with the Minister's recommendation and confirmed Mr. Ntuli's provisional suspension. During the disciplinary process, the Commission reported that it had commenced with the misconduct inquiry against Mr. Ntuli, and the inquiry concluded on 17 July 2030 and found Mr. Ntuli not guilty of the misconduct charge leveled against him. The Commission was of the view that it could not justify the continuation of Mr. Ntuli's provisional suspension from office, and therefore recommended that the Minister lift Mr. Ntuli's provisional suspension with immediate effect. The Minister concurred with the recommendation from the Magistrates Commission and recommended that since the basis for Mr. Ntuli's provisional suspension had fallen away, that there was no reason to uphold his provisional suspension. The Minister lifted Mr. Ntuli's provisional suspension on receipt of Magistrates Commission recommendation. Having considered the Magistrates Commission report and the Minister's recommendation, the committee concurs with the Minister's decision to lift the provisional suspension and therefore recommends the House to approve the lifting of the provisional suspension from Office of Magistrate FKS Ntuli. Thank you.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to in accordance with Rule 71. I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed with the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. And heads of delegation will press in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape? Free State? Gauteng? KZN? Limpopo? Mpumalanga? Northern Cape? Northwest?
Vote in favor, Chair.
And Western Cape?
In favor, Chair.
Nine provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 15th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Education and Recreation, follow-up oversight visit to Eastern Cape following intervention by National Department of Basic Education.
I will now call upon Honorable Ranto.
Thanks, Chair, Deputy Chairperson, and
Good afternoon to everybody. As part of our oversight responsibilities to the provinces, the Select Committee on Education and Recreation undertook an oversight visit to the Eastern Cape from the 13th to the 16th March 2012. The purpose of the visit was the follow-up on progress made by the Eastern Cape Department of Basic Education in terms of the implementation plan tabled by the Minister of Basic Education on the National Council of Provinces in terms of Section 101B of the Constitution. Following engagement with the department, we gained a thorough understanding of the impact that a dysfunctional administration has on education priorities, and we appreciate the cooperation received from the provincial department. At the opening of the schools in January 2011, the department faced challenges in the following key areas, namely the termination of temporary educators, delivery of the stationery to Section 20 schools, the suspension of the scholar transport program, challenges with the implementation of the school nutrition program, non-delivery of infrastructure. In response, the committee recommended that the Eastern Cape Department of Education work hand in hand with the National Department of Basic Education with a collaborative approach to bring about a sustainable turnaround and to ensure efficient and effective delivery of educational service in the province. In response to the termination of temporary educators, the following took place. The contracts of up to 4,000 temporary teachers were terminated in schools facing shortage of teachers. The department has since reinstated temporary teachers as follows. 1,910 temporary educators were appointed against 2013 vacancies. All the 1,910 temporary educators include Funza Lushaka Basari graduates and those that are professionally qualified. To date, the placement of teachers is working well in areas where there are no additional educators, despite the fact that temporary educators were meant to be an interim measure pending the permanent filling of the substantive vacancies. Textbooks are a crucial learning tool for learners and are used by teachers to facilitate the teaching process. Failure to procure and or distribute textbook and stationery to many schools in the province, and in particular non-Section 21 schools, negatively impacted on teaching and learning. On the challenge of delivery stationery on Section 20 schools, the committee acknowledges that this has been a challenge facing the basic education department. We welcome the 881 million rand allocated by the department for LTSM to schools. An amount of 164 million rands was spent on stationery and the balance was spent on textbooks. In 2012 financial year, there were 4,480 Section 21 schools and 1,132 Section 20 schools. Stationery has already been delivered to all of the Section 20 schools that placed orders. There was delivery of the stationery to over 95% of Section 21 schools, and others received their supply in February 2012. Learner transport came to a total halt in many areas. This resulted in unnecessary absenteeism among learners. As a system of guaranteeing access to education for many rural and poor children, the learner transport program service was restored to learners who live in farm and rural areas. However, the majority of learners who are covered by policy still need to receive this service. Thus, it was decided that the Department of Education would remain responsible for determining requirements of learner transport, and the Department of Transport would provide the physical transportation of learners. A memorandum of agreement with clear roles and responsibilities was also signed by both departments in August 2011. The collapse of the National School Nutrition Program left many learners without feeding, and this negatively impacted on teaching and learning. The committee welcomes the good progress made by the department regarding the implementation of school nutrition program. The committee is optimistic that the comprehensive implementation plan designed to resolve the setbacks in the department worked well, and thanks the department for their cooperation and support. I thank you, Chairperson.
That concludes the debate. I shall put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make that declaration if they so wish. Shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order. Per province, heads of delegation will vote by pressing in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape? Free State? Gauteng? KZN? Limpopo? Mpumalanga? Northern Cape? Northwest? Western Cape? 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 16th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Education and Recreation, scoping report and implementation plan on intervention in Eastern Cape Education Department.
I'll now call upon Honorable Ranto.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson again. On 2nd March 2011, Cabinet took the decision to intervene in the Provincial Department of Education in the Eastern Cape in terms of Section 101A of the Constitution. The primary reason for the proposed intervention was for the National Department of Basic Education to hold the Eastern Cape Department's issues related to termination of contract of 4,000 temporary teachers, termination of learner transport program service, collapse of National School Nutrition Program, no procurement and delivery learner teacher support material, no development and provisioning of infrastructure. As such, the implementation plan was drafted to return the Eastern Cape Department of Education to its normal state of affairs. The implementation plan responds comprehensively to the various categorical issues facing the department. More importantly, it requires the provincial officials own and take full responsibility for the plan. The plan proposed 2 areas for intervention. Firstly, working with the provincial government of the Eastern Cape to immediately initiate service delivery that will allow the academic year to continue, and secondly, using a diagnostic approach method to uncover the root causes of the historic and current challenges so as to develop intervention to permanently stop any repeat of the aforementioned challenges. The first phase of implementation plan made the following recommendation. The plan proposed that the school nutrition program be centralized to the schools, which led to learners being regularly fed. The learner transport program service was restored to learners who are in the farm and rural areas, and this is being expanded with time. Temporary educators were reinstated in order for teaching and learning in class to continue. Stationery and textbook were delivered to school within a few months of the intervention in July 2011 and have continued to be delivered since then. The second part of the implementation plan involved using a diagnostic approach analysis of the challenges, particularly endemic issues that prevented the provincial department from implementing government's program for education. In order to understand the current and past state of affairs, the diagnostic approach foregrounds the provincial department using a situational analysis of all stakeholders such as learners, teachers, employees, and financial and institutional management areas as part of building a solid basis from which to construct recommendations. The plan made comprehensive recommendations for an action plan that would improve the outcomes of the provincial department in a way that would empower the province and allow the national department to withdraw control. The Select Committee on Education and Recreation, having considered the scoping report and the implementation plan on intervention in the Eastern Cape Education Department, recommend that the House approves the plan. I thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration, if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do the alphabetical court order per province. Heads of delegation will vote in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, and Western Cape. 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report to be agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. The Secretary will read the 17th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Education and Recreation. Consideration of a short list of candidates for appointment to the board of the National Research Foundation.
I shall call upon Honorable Makate.
Thank you, Deputy Chairperson, honorable members. The Act requires the board to consist of a chairperson and not fewer than 9 and not more than 11 other members and the CEO. The current National Research Foundation Board has the required number of members. However, it was recommended that the Minister appoints the maximum number of members in order to fairly distribute the board to relevant committees. In line with Section 6 of the Act, the Minister advertised the vacancy in the Government Gazette, inviting people to nominate candidates to the National Research Foundation Board. A panel was appointed by the Minister to compile a short list of potential candidates to fill the board. The department received a total of 39 nominees, and on the 25th January 2013, the board met to whittle this down to 3. All candidates considered for appointment have achieved distinction in the field of research and technology, research and technology management, business, public affairs, or civil society, as per subsection 4 of the Act. The Select Committee recommends the following candidate. Professor Burton is a Vice Principal for Research and Postgraduate Education at the University of Pretoria. In her current portfolio, she is responsible for research, postgraduate education, and internationalization and library services. Her expertise includes biochemistry, microbiology, and management. The member to be appointed will serve for the unexpired portion of the term, which is until 30 September 2014. I thank you.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration of vote if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, and Western Cape. 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 18th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs, Benguela, current Convention on Environmental Protection and conversion of the Benguela current large marine ecosystem between the Government of the Republic of Angola, the Government of the Republic of Namibia, and the Government of the Republic of South Africa.
I'll now call upon Honorable Makate. Deputy Chairperson, the Chief Whip, and honorable members of the House,
I greet you all this afternoon. I'm going to deliberate on Benguela Current Convention on behalf of the Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs. The Benguela Current Convention on Environmental Protection and Conservation of the Benguela Current Large Marine Ecosystem is an international agreement between the government of the Republic of Angola, the government of the Republic of Namibia, and of the Republic of South Africa, tabled in terms of Section 231, Clause 2 of the Constitution. The signing of the Benguela Current Convention on 18 March 2013 in Benguela, Angola, represented the culmination of many years of research, consultation, and negotiations. The signing of this unique multilateral agreement was the next logical step after nearly 2 decades of collaboration between the governments of Angola, Namibia, and South Africa in managing the Benguela Current Large Marine Ecosystem. The Convention seeks to formally establish the Benguela Current Commission as a regional intergovernmental organization with a mandate to promote the sustainable use and management of the Benguela Current Large Marine Ecosystem. The ratification of this multilateral convention will ensure that sustainable development progresses in an environmentally responsible manner for long-term social and economic benefits for the people of the BCLME region, and that the 3 governments work together to protect marine biodiversity and maintain the integrity of the BCLME region. The convention focuses on creating an institutional structure known as the Benguela Current Commission, which will work towards achieving sustainable development. The Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs, having considered the request for approval by Parliament of the Benguela Current Convention on Environmental Protection and Conservation of the Benguela Current Large Marine Ecosystem between the Government of the Republic of Angola, the Government of the Republic of Namibia, and of the Republic of South Africa, referred to it, recommends that the Council, in terms of Section 231, Clause 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, approves the ratification of the agreement. I thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rule 71, I shall allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration if they so wish. Shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Heads of delegation will vote in favor, against, or abstain. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, and Western Cape. 9 provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. Secretary will read the 19th order of the day.
Consideration of report of Select Committee on Land and Environmental Affairs, request to nominate candidates for appointment to the board of the National Agricultural Marketing Council.
I'll now call upon Honorable Mohoro.
Nomination to the National Agricultural Marketing Council. Thank you, Chair. on the 12th of September, the NCOP received correspondence from the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, inviting nomination for 2 vacant positions on the National Agricultural Marketing Council. This was referred to the committee on the 25th of September 2013. The vacant position on the National Agricultural Marketing Council were under Category B, Agricultural Product-Related Trade and Industry, and Category D, Consumer Issues Relating to Agricultural Product, including issues relating to disadvantaged communities in terms of Section 4.2 of the Marketing of Agricultural Product Act number 47 of 1996. After having deliberated on the issue, the committee recommends, in accordance with the Section 4 in bracket A of the Marketing Agricultural Products Act number 47 of 1996, to the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, that Dr. Edwin Alfred Conroy be nominated to serve on the National Agricultural Marketing Committee. Thank you, Chair.
That concludes the debate. I shall now put the question that the report be agreed to. In accordance with Rules 71, I shall first allow provinces the opportunity to make their declaration if they so wish. We shall now proceed to the voting on the question. I'll do this in alphabetical order per province. Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Northwest, and Western Cape. Nine provinces have voted in favor. I therefore declare the report agreed to in terms of Section 65 of the Constitution. That concludes the business of the day. Honorable members, you requested to remain standing until the procession has left the House. The House is adjourned.